So the 3-wood's in the bag for most golfers so that when the ball's on the ground, they can make a swing and maximise their distance from the ground, hitting it long and straight. But all too often, that's not the shot that golfers get. Far too often, they set up with 3-wood, go in for that big shot, and they just cold top it along the ground, maybe even fat it from time to time. But very often golfers will tell me that when they tee the ball up and maybe use it instead of driver to get in play, they're a lot more consistent. But first and foremost, 3-wood as 5-wood and 7-wood, I believe should be good from the ground, hence the name of fairway wood. So what are the common mistakes that I see golfers make that if you're watching this video, you probably make? And to be honest, I used to make most of these years ago myself. So the mistakes I see golfers do is straight away they start getting that ball well forward in the stance, kind of almost as far forward as driver. They get that little bit of tilt. And the first thing that creates is, even though I've struck that one solidly, it creates the low point behind the ball. So we can see 0.6 inches behind. Clubs travel up half a degree. And it's a pretty decent result, to be fair. But what we saw there is the lowest point of my swing was behind the ball, so the club's bottoming out early. And if I'm just at the right height, I can get away with that. But if I'd have been a little lower, I'd have fatted it, and a little higher and missing the ground, that's the thin or the top. So the first thing we need to do is understand how we're going to get that low point ahead of the golf ball to make the club travel down, very much as we do with irons and hybrids. So the first thing I'm going to say is don't get that ball position as far forward. Maybe go just very slightly forward of centre. And I also want you to feel at address that you're not going to get that tilt away from the target. You're going to try and feel like you're a little bit more on top of the ball. And then when you swing, you're going to feel that you shift towards the target and we start touching the ground after the ball. Now, interestingly, when you look at the fairway woods as well, my 3-wood's got 15 degrees of loft, but the 15 degrees is the middle of the face. Now, occasionally golfers will hit it a little bit lower off the face, and because of the curve, there's actually less loft. So if we can present 3-wood a bit more this way, even though technically you're de-lofting the club, which will get more compression, get ball and then turf strike, it's actually going to have a little bit more loft higher up the face. So we're going to get the ball just slightly forward of centre, feel like that pressure's a little bit more on that left side, and then make a practice swing. And we can see there I would have touched the ground after the golf ball. So then that's what we want to feel. So like I said, much more treating this as an iron. You can see there the low point 1.7 inches ahead. Clubs travelled down 2.6 degrees, launched at 9.4, carried it just under 227 and rolled out over 250 yards. And it's not that I'm trying to generate lots and lots of speed there. I'm trying to be nice and efficient, getting a good strike, but making sure I collect ball and then ground. Now, the setup, like I said, is huge for most golfers making that mistake. Also having that concept of letting the club touch the ground after the golf ball is important. I was always told as a kid that I need to be sweeping it away. You can see there, if I'm trying to sweep it away, I'm going to bottom out well behind the ball. So I'm not a fan when people talk about hitting down and hitting up. That's something that naturally happens when you control the low point of your golf swing. So like I said, 3-wood, and this is the same for 5-wood, 7-wood, hybrids. If you struggle with any of your metals from the floor, you're going to make that swing, ball just slightly forward of centre, touch the ground after the golf ball, and then get some feedback. So you can see there, 2 inches ahead again, 2.6 degrees down, 9.8 launch, just over 230 carry, and again over 250 total. Now, if for me, that feels maybe a little bit low, all I would want to do is just move the ball slightly forward. So I'm still going to get the low point after the ball, but we shouldn't see the number quite as big. So maybe an inch ahead would be perfect. And you don't have to be that precise. But if I just have that ball slightly further forward now and make a good swing, we see the low point slightly less ahead at 0.8 inches. Clubs travel down 1.2 degrees, launching at 12.4, carrying at 240, and then rolling out just over 260. Now, definitely for me, I'm not somebody that necessarily gets their low point miles ahead. So whenever I start getting too far forward with fairway wood, that's where I'll definitely get that one that launches lower, low points behind, and I've got away with it. It's a bit left, but I've got away with that. But if I just bring the strike there, we can see very low on the face, and as I explained, less loft down there. So, making sure for me, the ball just forward of centre, feel like that pressure's a little bit more on that left side, and then make sure I shift towards the target to move that low point ahead, put a good swing on it. And again, 4.1 inches ahead, clubs travel down 3 degrees. That's why I've de-lofted that a little bit more. 230 carry and 255. But definitely for me, have to feel that I get more there at impact. Try to get higher up that club face. Let's try and get another really good solid one. So you see there, low point nicely ahead. Clubs travel down 3 degrees. A little bit drawy, but launching at 10.9. Carrying 226, rolling out 242. And if we pull the strike up on that one, we can see right out the middle of the club face, and hence why that one launched a little bit higher. So hopefully you've worked through the video with me. Don't be making the mistakes I see all golfers making. Getting the ball way forward, getting that tilt. That'll work great off a tee or a really fluffy lie, because that'll get the low point behind and get the club traveling up. But as soon as the ball sits down on a tightish lie, you're only ever going to hit it off the bottom of the club, maybe even top it. So make sure that you set up correctly, just as you would with an iron. Put a good swing on it. And all of a sudden, 3-wood just might become the club that it's in the bag doing the job that it's supposed to do.